Welcome to the spoiler room. Are you ready for the highly anticipated return of You? Before diving into the new season, let's take a look back at the first season to refresh our memories and get caught up on all the juicy details. Pilot. In episode 1 of You, we meet Joe Goldberg, a bookstore manager who becomes infatuated with customer Beck. He uses social media and other means to learn everything about her and starts to insert himself into her life. Joe becomes Beck's secret admirer, sending her gifts and messages, even going so far as to change his appearance to fit her preferences. As Beck becomes more enamored with Joe, she starts to ignore her friends and writing, causing a rift with her best friend Peach. The last nice guy in New York. In episode 2, Beck starts to suspect that Joe is her secret admirer, but he denies it. Joe becomes more aggressive in winning Beck over, even breaking into her apartment and stealing a manuscript she's been working on. Beck's writing partner, Benji, becomes suspicious of Joe too. Meanwhile, Beck's relationship with Peach becomes increasingly strained as Peach tries to warn her about Joe. Maybe. In episode 3, Beck and Joe's relationship takes a turn for the worse when Beck finds out Joe stole her manuscript and confronts him. Joe tries to make amends by offering to help her publish it, but Beck is not interested. As she starts to pull away, Joe becomes more desperate to keep her in his life, even stalking her and her friends. Beck starts to suspect Joe as her secret admirer, but is still unsure. The Captain. In episode 4, Beck's suspicion of Joe grows as she notices strange occurrences around her. Joe continues to stalk Beck and her friends, manipulating her into thinking her friends are sabotaging her relationship. Beck starts to become more isolated and relies more on Joe for support. Meanwhile, Benji investigates Joe. Living with the enemy. In episode 5, Beck's relationship with Joe becomes increasingly toxic as she feels trapped. Joe becomes more possessive and controlling, and Beck starts to feel like she's living with an enemy. Meanwhile, Benji's investigation leads to unsettling discoveries and he becomes more vocal to Beck. Amour fou. In episode 6, Beck's relationship with Joe reaches a boiling point as she realizes the extent of his manipulation and control. Joe's behavior becomes increasingly erratic and violent, and Beck fears for her safety. Meanwhile, Benji confronts Joe, but the confrontation ends in tragedy. Everything ship. In episode 7, Beck starts to question everything about her relationship with Joe. She investigates his past and discovers disturbing information. Joe becomes increasingly desperate to keep Beck under his control and takes drastic measures. You got me, babe. In episode 8, Beck distances herself from Joe, but he becomes more determined to keep her under his thumb. He isolates her from friends and family and becomes increasingly violent and unpredictable. Beck fears for her life and turns to her ex, Benji, for help. Candace. In episode 9, Beck suspects Joe may not be who he says he is. She investigates him and discovers he's been lying and stalking her. Joe tries to make amends, but Beck is not easily convinced. Meanwhile, Joe's ex-girlfriend Candace shows up and causes problems for him. She reveals to Beck that Joe has been lying, and Beck distances herself from him. Joe spirals out of control and becomes increasingly erratic. Beck eventually breaks up with Joe and he's left alone, with no one to turn to. Bluebeard's Castle. In the final episode of Season 1, Beck continues to struggle with her feelings for Joe as he becomes increasingly unhinged. Joe's past comes back to haunt him as Candace, the woman he had previously killed, is revealed to be alive and seeking revenge. Joe is forced to confront the consequences of his actions and the true extent of his obsession with Beck. Meanwhile, Beck's friendship with Peach takes a dangerous turn as Peach's true motives are revealed. In a shocking twist, Joe is ultimately able to outsmart Candace and escape, but not before Beck realizes the true nature of their relationship and leaves him for good. The season ends with Joe alone and on the run, with the implication that he will continue to manipulate and harm those around him. Thanks for watching our recap of You, Season 1. We hope you're now fully prepared for the upcoming season. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more You content and all the latest TV show recaps and spoilers. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video.